have Billy, the American, we have me, the Australian, and then we have 2 Canadians.
2 Canucks, a Yank, and an Aussie.
Yeah.
The bastard sons of the British Empire. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. What could go wrong?
Hey, this is Mike Mosser from the band In Theory, and you're listening to All Over the Place, where the funsanity never ends.
Hello and welcome back to All Over the Place. I am your host, Eric Porvoznik, and a lot of great stuff to announce and a lot of great stuff to get to. So I'm just going to jump right in very quickly with a shout out to our friend Dan Schinder over at Drum Talk TV. I recently won this. I won one of the rounds to get me this, and then I won the finals for knowing information about disco music and how it infected or influenced rock and roll music back in the 70s, 80s, and even into the 90s, according to Jan and the contest, their bi-monthly contest. So thank you, Dan, for having that. And as always, friends of Drum Talk TV, make sure you check them out, folks, drumtalktv.com. And you can also join their exclusive Drum Talk TV Brilliance. Get you exclusive content and a lot of great access to everything over there at Drum Talk TV. Also want to make sure I am sending a shout out to our good friends over at Danny Zalesko Presents. Be sure you get all of your concert needs, particularly in the Southwest, but coast to coast over at dzplive.com. And finally, our good friends, Nick and the gang over at Vinyl Record Dude, sending a shout out to them. Make sure when you're in Scottsdale, Arizona, swing by their new store, their location over there on Scottsdale and Shea. But if you're not in Scottsdale, don't worry. You can still go to vinylrecorddude.com and order your music from there. Be sure to check it out. And I also want to send a shout out. I'm going to bring her in so I can gush about her while she's present. Be sure, folks, you are checking out Kathy Rankin, and she is our resident music guru, particularly about the band Rush. Be sure you're checking out everything that's going on with Kathy at Instagram.com/RushFanatic. And Kathy, welcome back to the show.
Hi, you caught me. I was texting.
Unawares. It's how we roll here on All Over the Place, folks. But Jim, am I catching you awares or unawares?
No, and I saw nothing, Kathy. Don't worry. You're fine.
Okay, good.
You'd think I'd notice on the screen. That's
if you didn't see it, it didn't happen.
Nope.
I saw nothing. But I do see with us, we have another great guest from the Chipster PR family, where we first met Kathy. But we want to welcome in now. He's the vocalist for The Fell, where it's high-octane energy vocals, music. Everything about this band is just a lot of fun, and it's our privilege to welcome to the show Toby Rand from The Fell. Thanks for joining us, Toby.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. It's great to be here.
Well, I got to say, obviously the high energy, I mentioned that, but thank you for doing rock and roll, which everyone says it's dead or on embers or whatever, but nope, thanks for defying that. And what is it about rock and roll that just keeps you wanting to get it out there to people?
I think it stems from where I came from, actually. As you can tell, my accent's a little bit south, down towards Australia.
I came prepared.
You did. That's my boy right there. When you grew up in Australia, in my age, in like the 90s and stuff, obviously the grunge era was really prevalent. I was a big, STP, Chris Cornell, Pearl Jam kind of guy. And all the pubs, you could play literally 5 nights a week. There was rock and roll everywhere, and everyone was doing the circuit. So it's kind of been in my blood. It's been in my family. I don't think I've worked with anything else apart from, playing with like rock and roll musicians, really. And when you meet guys like Mike Krompus and Billy Sheehan and the initial drummer Randy Cook, it just had to be pretty heavy rock and roll. So I'm just stoked that we're finally getting to showcase this music to the world. It's freaking awesome.
Indeed. And you mentioned Billy Sheehan. What was it like to get the call from a guy who's most certainly in my top 5, probably my top 3 rock bass players of all time? What was that like for you?
It was pretty good. It's actually he's in my top 1 for my brother, so I kind of hold that over my brother now, which is awesime. So
there you go.
I have some leg up on him. I was talking to him the other night. Actually, he's really stoked for the music as well. But Mike and myself were in Los Angeles. This is a number of years ago, and we were writing this record. And he goes, "Listen, I've got Billy, who's interested, who heard a couple of our demos, who's going to come in." And I'm like, Billy Sheehan? I'm like, holy crap. And so when he first came in, I think we did like a session, and this song will be coming out in January, February, one of the first songs we wrote together. It was just kind of interesting to be in a band where everyone was kind of at the top of their game. So like Mike is probably one of the most accomplished guitarists I've ever worked with. He's also an incredible producer. He's great at melodies as well. And then Billy is obviously the biggest freak bass player I've ever seen in my life. And then to be in person, so I had to get used to as well. Like I could sing a verse and a chorus, and then I could just leave for like 5 minutes, and they'd still be jamming. So that's what a lot of our songs coming up on later records have a lot more jamming as well. So it was just magical to be in a room with being able to. Those guys really stretch their abilities, and then I was allowed to stretch mine as well. So I think we're all just going at, like you said, high octane and just really pushing to the limits. Yeah.
Toby, did Billy ever say what it was about your demos that grabbed him? Why he was interested in working with you guys?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because we've done a couple of chats together, and when we've done some interviews and stuff, and then even just when we hang out, like we were just in Toronto recently, and we were just discussing, and he goes, "Listen, I've been playing it to my peers." And when I mean peers, he's playing to like Ray Luzier, who's my favorite drummer on the planet, and things like that. And they're all coming back saying that, it's really a bit of a removal from where he normally writes music and who he plays with. And he goes, I just feel like I seem to be working with a lot of these same old musos who are my friends and stuff, but this was just a fresh outlook and a fresh perspective with some young guys who were doing something that I haven't really worked with. He just thought it was really fresh and something that he could get his teeth into. And we've had different iterations of the Fell over the years, because I had to unfortunately kind of stall the progress a few years back. But now that Billy has a hiatus with Mr. Big, and the Winery Dogs have a bit of a hiatus now because Richie's off doing some other stuff, we now all have time to really put effort into this record. And next year's going to be quite exciting, I can feel. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, the Kill Switch video is just awesome. I mean, the song, it's heavy.
Yeah, it is. It was like that was one of the first riffs that I think Mike showed Billy, and then Billy was like, and then Mike actually called him and said, "Hey, do you want to be a paid player, on our project?" Billy goes, "Well, I'll just be in it." And we're like,
wow.
Okay. So that's cool. Yeah.
That's amazing. And what stood out to me, sorry, you guys, I don't mean to ask all the questions, but Mike was a standout. I didn't realize his guitar work is incredible. And you mentioned he's a producer. Did he do the production, and who did the mixing and engineering on this? Because the production's awesome. He
did that. Yeah.
Wow.
We did, I think when it came to songwriting and things like that, me and Mike held most of the weight there, and then Billy would come in and just, change. Then all of a sudden the song would change again. But Mike, mixed the record. He did Nelly Furtado's, Grammy Award winning record. He's worked with a lot of pop stars. So his sensibility, but his guitar playing is completely rock and roll. He grew up in the Toronto garage scene, growing up with the likes of, the big rep guys and Our Lady Peace, and working with all the superstars in Canada and stuff like that. But he's got I always say this to people when I talk, he is probably the most unheard of talented guitarist I've ever seen in my life. You go to his studio, he's been given so many freaking pedals, he could build a house with them because every guitar company wants to work with him, because he does these shred videos that sometimes no one sees, that just go straight over to Japan or whatever it is. He is unbelievable and such a great hard worker as well.
You're right. He is unbelievable.
Yeah, I love. Thank you for saying that, because everyone, obviously Billy stands on his own 2 feet, but I can't wait for people to discover more about Mike as well. He's just a freak. Yeah.
Yeah. Great lineup.
Yeah,
I appreciate. And if we learn nothing else from Spinal Tap 2, it's about pedals these days. Forget going to 11. It's about pedals.
Hell yes, I love that.
Good reference.
That's a great reference. Yeah.
Well, Kathy, you've been with the show long enough. It's either going to be a Weird Al, a Spinal Tap, or a Michael Hutchins or NXS reference from this guy.
Or Rush.
Or Rush for you, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, do you know a fun fact about NXS? Did you know this, Eric, that I worked with the bass player from NXS in another band?
Really? You worked with Gary? Nice.
With Gary Beers. I've been best buddies with Gary for I think 7 years now, and we've written. We've got a band called Ash and Moon, so we've written a whole
you
record
play with
worth of
them?
material.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a passion project. We worked on that through COVID, and he had all this vault stuff that he had never released within Excess, and we just kind of opened it all up, and we just had so much fun together. So I seem to be working with awesome bass players. You know what I mean?
Well, I was lucky enough, and it was the first tour that they did after Michael passed away, and it was John
Stevens, yeah.
John Stevens. And I won a contest, so I get to hang out with the band at House of Blues in Vegas. And I got to talk to all the guys. But Gary and I really, I enjoyed the conversation with him was just phenomenal. And we bounced things back and forth through the years. So I like this. So
I'll definitely let him know. You should get
Gary,
him on the show.
we're coming for you next to come on all over the place.
I'm going to connect you guys. You should definitely have a chat with him. He's got stories for days.
I would be glad. And well, actually, we have with Hutch's new music or new old music. We've had Danny Saber on the show a couple of times, and he'll be coming back because he's got more new music coming from Michael.
Yeah,
either later this month or December. So. Rest in peace, Hutch. Cannot get enough of the guy.
Yeah, me too. I agree.
But with this album, what I really like about going back to what I mentioned earlier with rock and roll, you guys have a really unique sound, and it totally is kicking. But obviously there's the '80s influences and everything that Billy brings to the table, everything that you bring with all and just everyone with their influences and all that. But how do you guys just come up with such a fresh sound and not sounding like anybody else?
I'm glad you said that because I was trying to pigeonhole. I think a good testament to rock and roll is when you kind of find a band that you enjoy that you can't really tell who they sound like, which is kind of what you're suggesting. I think it's just because I think with the experience that we've all had in different band stuff like that we've done. I think me and Mike, when we first started writing the songs, we kind of just like. I think we just put out the EP, and one of the first tracks we wrote was a song called Footprints, and at that time we were listening to kind of like the British rock and roll invasion that were coming over, like Nothing But Thieves, and those kind of like young kind of rock bands that had a little bit more production in it than just kind of like just strip back everything a little bit more. There's some synth and some certain things in there, but and really interesting melody lines. Even the singer. I'm able to do falsetto quite nicely and kind of get that androgynous kind of vocal from time to time. So we just kind of investigated doing that, crossing over with the 90s grunge vocals, which Cornell is one of my biggest heroes. And then the pop sensibility from, bands like U2, we make that anthemic, guitar patterns and things like that. Then you add the riff rock to it, and then you have some sort of freaking weird baby, I guess. So I'm not quite sure. But like Mike being his pop sensibility, like I would maybe sing something that's kind of straight, and he goes, no, let's put something interesting and something catchy, and his guitar lines. I mean, I don't know how. Like when I watched Mike and Billy, we were about to release. We recorded a live 4-track at the Grant Avenue Studios in Toronto, and that was the second day that we'd really jammed together as a 4-piece in so long. And I don't know how the fuck they wrote the stuff they were doing. Like I'm watching and going, how did you actually do that? So I actually get confused how we got here too. But I think it's just about everyone is experimenting, what they love about their rock and roll, and we just happen to do this. So yeah, the
way real music is supposed to be made.
Yeah, there you go.
In this AI world.
Well, I know, and I'm in Las Vegas now, and I have a residency out here with some other musos from bands like there were a couple of guys from Lifehouse, and then I got my buddy from Savage Garden who's in the band as well, and we were talking about live music, and we're talking about AI taking it over, and I just don't see how it can possibly take over. If you're a true rock and roll fan, I can't see how it can take over. You know what I mean? And it's just more about educating our kids that we need to get you on stages and need you to play more rock and roll, play more live music. And I think that from what I've seen online, rock and roll is kind of trajectory. I can't even bloody talk today. It's going up and it's taking over a lot of other, platforms. So rock and roll is I think very present right now.
Oh, this is the land where we made up the word fun sanity. So trajectoring, I like it.
Yeah, yeah.
Surprising.
Oh man, I've got a book called The Redictionary, and it's about and I'm just an idiot, so I write down all my stupid words. So I'm on your side, so don't worry about that.
And I'm glad you brought up Nothing But Thieves. I was able to see, and live music as well, because I saw them live a couple years ago with Kid Capici opening. And that was just a fun night of live music. And we brought it up on the show before. And of course, Kathy's a performer. I miss the stage, something fierce, and just that rush you get from it. There's nothing like live music. And AI, you can bring back the holograms of whoever you want. It's not going to be the same. It's live music. That's what music needs.
Yeah, it is. And the only AI that I'm actually digging is that awesome black dude who's doing all those soul covers of grunge.
Yeah.
And he's like, listen to this. It's like he's breaking down like Interstate Love Song into like a 70s soul classic, and it's freaking epic, But that's fun. That's fun to hear it.
Yeah, they did it to Tom Sawyer's Rush. They did a funk version. It was hilarious.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so that's a bit of fun, but how you're never going to see a band, on stage doing that stuff. I mean, you could, but it's live music is where it's at.
Yeah.
On that note, are you guys? What's the road or shows looking like for you guys? Are you going to build up a little more original material, or just get out there and mix in some covers?
Yeah, so we basically we have I think already 12 originals. So we've only released 5, and we've got a full LP lined up for early quarter next year. The end of this month, on November 28th, we're releasing that 5-track as a vinyl, an exclusive 200 copy vinyl, which will be signed as well. And then we'll have enough for a pretty decent set. And then the first band that I came over to America with, a band called Duke Cartel, which is how I kind of started my American campaign, I guess. I showed Billy and Mike a couple of tracks that kind of assimilate. So we might rework one of those songs. We might rework something that Billy's done from back in the day that he had his hands all over, and then something from Mike maybe to add. Because I think it's important to, it's a band, a new band, but we've come from a lot of other places. So that could be cool too. But yeah, man, we've just signed with an agency in London. So they're fishing around now and they work with Bonamassa and Toto and do a lot of Steve Lukather's kind of solo stuff as well. So we're looking to see if he can jump us onto like-minded, festivals or other runs that are happening. So we're looking to do that starting, hopefully anywhere between February, March next year, and see what we can get,
Nice.
Yeah.
Speaking of reworking tracks, I know that this new EP includes new versions of Footprints and another song. Can you kind of talk a little bit about some of the changes that were made and why?
Well, yeah, the reason is because I was the original singer in the Fell, and then I had a solo record at the same time, and I was in Melbourne promoting that solo record back in Australia, and then Mike calls me and goes, "Hey," me, Billy, and Mike with our old drummer Randy Cook, we had gone over to Warsaw to shoot the music video for Footprints, and at the same time we're doing press in Prague, and we did some like alternate rock magazine stuff, and then we shot the video, and then I said to Mike, can we just hold off putting it out because I have to fulfill and tell my management that I've got another thing going on. And the management kind of kicked back and said, no, we want to just put the money into the solo project. And I literally said to them, and this is not no shitting you, I said, I'll give you 80% of what I do with the Fell because I believe in it so much. And they said, listen, we'll just end your contract. And so I had to pull myself out of the Fell. And that was devastating. So we have the video from that. We're going to put that out posthumously. So that was the reason why they ended up getting new singers along the way, and then eventually just didn't really go to the place that they wanted it to. So that's why we're back together now. We're all at a right place. They forgave me, and the music stood the test of time. Like over the last 2 or 3 years, I've been texting Billy and Mike, reminding them of a song, and they're all going, you know what? Yeah, you're right. We've got to get this out. So this year was the year that we put it all back together. And we just reviewed it because we wanted to know that, obviously some of our musical tastes have changed. Like the Footprints song, for instance, we I don't know, we've been listening to a lot of Mammoth as well. Like I'm listening to bands that have got great production now, and so we wanted to make sure that our production was still in the game where it's sounding fresh, and so we just kind of just dated it, more currently, and so Mike I went out there and flew out for a couple of days, and we just went through all the songs, and then I just cleaned up some vocals because my voice has changed a little bit, and just put it in a fresh touch, fresh coat of paint, and we're super pumped. And we wrote a song in like a day, which was the second single, Face Out. So we kind of just quickly put that in to get that moved. So we had something new to add to the pile. And then Mike and myself last week, we just shared 4 new ideas that we have, and he's going to work on a little format, send them to me this week, and we start our demo process. And this time next year we'll have 16 to 20 tracks. So yeah, that's what we're kind of working towards.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
Looking forward to hearing them.
I know, and remote working these days, COVID I think we learned so many skills during COVID. I know that people suffered during COVID, but it was a really kind of cathartic experience for me. I got rid of that said team that I was with, and it opened up my whole life to just focusing on what I want to do with my music career. And then COVID, obviously, we learned how to remotely work on music. You're doing a podcast right now, with split screens. We can get work done without having to be everywhere. I do like being in person. I think that's where magic truly happens. But being able to do things like this and being able to at least demo and send back and forth it's just come advances now. And even Billy, because Billy does a lot of session work, he says that he can pretty much record in real time, on the screen while someone's in Nashville, and it's pretty amazing the technology that we gained from that period, I think.
Mhm.
So me and Mike are able to work on songs and then send to Billy, and we can turn around music pretty quickly now, which is great.
Where did you guys get the name The Fell?
So this is like, once again, back in the day. So we were like looking at each other and we're going like, I guess we're all kind of white, rock and roll white dudes who kind of come from that kind of we all have Celtic history. And the fell is it was like a symbolism of the Celtic back in the day. They used to call the mountaineers, or the people kind of like the Vikings that lived in the mountains. They were part of the fell, and so we're like, that sounds rock and roll, man. Like probably leaning on a little bit of the Led Zeppelin influence there with looking for those kind of Viking anecdotes. But I've learned throughout the years getting a name right is I don't know. There's always someone who's going to be like, how do you pronounce it? I mean, I was in a band called Duke Cartel. And we had like a top 30 song on US radio, and so we're doing the rounds, and a lot of the DJs were like, man, we thought you were like a Jewish cartel, a Jew cartel. And I'm like, bloody hell, And then one of my other favorite bands from New Zealand, I don't know if you guys have heard them before, but I suggest you look them up, the band called She Had. And because of 9/11, because they were a new band back then, they had to change their name from She Had because it sounded too much like Jihad.
Wow.
And getting a name right is, I mean, who would have thought that Red Hot Chili Peppers would be one of the most popular names in the world? So
yeah.
Anyway, The Fell it is. But
any Celtic influence is A-okay with this guy.
Yeah, it's it. My mum's Welsh, she put me in choirs when I was younger. My dad's, I've got a British passport as well. So I grew up in the Welsh choirs, which are arguably the best choirs in the world. So as soon as I realised that I probably wasn't going to get too many girls singing in the choir, I chose rock and roll, and that's kind of how it all changed over.
Choir, rock and roll, theater might work for the straight guys. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I did a bit of theater too, so there you go.
Well, I have to say, weren't you on the Bachelor in some sort of Bachelor show?
No, I wasn't. But there was like a magazine. It was like a Bachelor of the Year thing.
Yes, that was it.
That was awesome. It was just like it's just a big campaign to kind of get your face out there so you can make more money, really. But I got nominated because I had like a little following after the TV show that I did in America, Rockstar, and in Australia when I went back, it became like pretty popular down there. So that was a bit of a shock to the system. But when I they have this big competition for, you know, eligible bachelors or whatever around in Australia. And I was actually recording at London Bridge Studios at the time in Seattle. And I had to fly straight from the last day of recording. And, you know, we had to sign off with drinking 1,000 bottles of wine and get on a plane and then turn up to this eligible bachelor, you know, function. And I looked nothing like an eligible bachelor. I looked like someone who hadn't slept for like a week. And it was just, I don't even know how the hell I was there. I was still in Seattle. So yeah.
We do.
Some people are into that. You never know.
Yeah, exactly. It's all rock and roll in the end, isn't it? But I'm older now, so I can't really get away from drinking on the plane and doing all that stupid shit. I got to sing. You know, Billy and Mike put me to work, so I got to sing, you know, at full throttle all the time. So yeah.
Yeah. How do you
I'm
keep?
glad you brought up rock star, because you had an eclectic of a plethora of just different artists. You sang songs from the Killers, Billy Idol, personal favorite Peter Gabriel, Talking Heads. Who else? Let's say Nirvana, of course. So and you've got. You know you're a Bowie fan when you've got Never Let Me Down sitting by. So you've got Bowie back, my man David Bowie back there. So
yeah,
what is it about all these different influences? Those obviously, any other influences that you had? I mean, you mentioned STP earlier. What else made you the vocalist and rock fan that you are?
Yeah, I think, well, my brothers were, you know, rock and roll, in a rock and roll band, a pretty popular one in Melbourne growing up. So I think, and they're hardcore muso fans. So, you know, you guys remember tape players, cassettes. My dad used to travel for his work, and he'd go to all those bootleg places, Bangkok and Singapore, and just bring home like a truck of tapes.
Wow.
You know, like all the, you know, so like literally, when I go home to their place, I always go through my bins, and I always keep the tapes. But you know, my brothers were pretty hardcore on Australian bands actually. Like I grew up listening to obviously In Excess and AC/DC, and then like Midnight Oil. Gang of Jang, Hoodoo Gurus, all these kind of like, you know, beachy surf bands. And then
Cold Chisel, don't forget Cold Chisel.
Cold Chisel, yeah. Well, Cold Chisel, yeah. Well, yeah. So Jimmy Barnes' son, I work with him, the drummer. He's amazing. And Jimmy Barnes is arguably the best Australian rock singer we've ever heard. And he used to do it after drinking a bottle of vodka. Freaking legend. And then, yeah, like bands like Talking Heads were constantly being played in the house, Rolling Stones and things like that. And I don't think that I necessarily got my my voice from doing that. I mean, you know, people poo-poo on Bono, but I think I was more moved by Bono because I think his emotional vocals live were really captivating to me. And I just remember watching Live Aid in '85 when that kind of turned the tide for them. And at the same time, In Excess were doing the one in Sydney. So there was this, and you were doing the cross back and forth. And, you know, I was only a young kid at that time, but something about that really moved me when he ran in the audience and grabbed a girl and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of like, I feel like I'm a bit of a singer for the people as well. I like engaging. I like being with the audience. I like connecting. And I firmly believe that the reason why I chose the stage was so I could go to the audience and then get the fuck back out, because I get a little bit weird in crowds. And so just things like that really kind of put me on that path. Yeah.
Bad is my favorite U2 song, and Bad
That's
on
my favorite.
Live
That's
Aid
my
Day
favorite.
was the shit.
Yeah.
If it wasn't
Okay,
for Queen taking the stage that day belonged to U2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, definitely. Glad you agree.
40 years of memories on that one, folks. 40 years of memories. I just got a little goosebumpy thinking about that. That was a great day for Bono.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Too.
Yeah, man. But, you know, like obviously, you know, growing up in Australia, we were very much Americanized with what we got. You know, like we always had, you know, in the 90s, I think you'll remember this, when CDs were so popular, like you had to have the Vitalogy Pearl Jam because it had the pamphlet inside, so you had to open it up. You know, they got really creative with how they would sell it to us. And if you went to your friend's house and you didn't have, you know, Offspring, Ixnay and the Ombre or something, you were banished from the group. You know, you had to have all those CDs in your thing. So we were very much Americanized. So we had like the Dookie, and we had, you know, all the STP, Super Unknown, and all that stuff. So that was where the path where I was kind of getting my formative years, was the grunge, but with the but also having bands like, you know, In Excess and U2 still giving me that kind of you know, Michael Hutchence and Bonnie get a little bit more of that sexiness, that little bit more soul or whatever it was. So yeah, that's my formative years from the early 90s. Yeah.
And you guys are doing that now too. If you go to folks, go to thefellmusic.com, they're the official website for the Fell. Go to the web store and you can get is it CD and LP? You can get the autograph copies. Or
Yeah,
just the LP?
I think we're going to sign the. I think we've got a vinyl for the EP. I think we're doing 200 of them and the CD as well.
Yeah, because you've got the kill switch, and it's a laser etching on the LP. You also get the CD. So so make sure you go to the store and check that out. Because, again, little collector's items, things like that, special editions. I love that you're making that available for fans.
Oh yeah, no, I'm stoked. Like, this is this is definitely something that when we put this back together, and which is only about the last 4 or 5 months that we've really started putting all the pieces together. It's just been like, okay, how do we do this, properly? And we don't have a huge budget right now. But what we have is a great music and a great team, and so we're trying to do the right things, and that's put out things that we'd be proud of, and I can't wait to get my hands on an LP. I think it's always important for bands to have great merch and great memories and stuff like that.
Definitely.
Well, I know I'm looking forward to the live music whenever that comes around. And another band that I was thinking that has that unique sound and new, which rock and roll is Mammoth. I love what Wolfgang's doing. And here I go, gang, accidentally trying to put a tour together. But I think the two of you guys would be awesome.
Yeah, I know. Mike is a huge Eddie Van Halen fan, and Eddie Van Halen's old roadie, Mike knows him, and he was in Toronto, and he goes, "Hey, Mark, I've got one of Eddie's old cabinets, like amps." And he goes, "Do you mind if I leave it at your studio for a while?" And so Mike just hasn't brought it back up. It's been there for so long. And I've heard Mike do some of these interviews as well, and he's mentioned it, and he goes, "Oh, fuck, I hope the guy doesn't hear that," because he just wants to hold on to it. But he's got a lot of the EBH gear in the studio. His actual head that he used on the record is an Eddie, one of those heads. So it's like you can probably hear in his guitar playing, he's very influenced by that. And when we look at production, I feel like I think Wolf, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Mike, because Mike can play everything. You know what I mean? But I'll just tell Mike that he'll never be a lead singer. That's all, and that's fine. But it's wonderful to watch him in the studio and do all this stuff. And I'd sometimes, I just sit back and just let him go through the process, and then I'll be like, "Hey, I've got an idea." But I know when someone's working like that, you have to let them get their idea out. It's much like when I'm in the studio. If you're constantly saying, "Hey, Toby, stop, start," and I'm just like, "Let's keep it fucking going," So, but that production for the Mammoth record, which they're officially called Mammoth now, I believe.
No WDH, right?
Is what we use that as kind of like a little bit of a benchmark. I think it's fantastic. So
what is your writing process? You talked a little bit about Mike and Billy, how they work. Do you come in with lyrical ideas first, or do you hear a riff that they're doing and it inspires something? Like, what's your process? Yeah,
so when Mike and I first were writing the ideas for this record, it was when when isn't America going through some sort of like something? It's an interesting country to live in when there's so much division. So we were writing about things that were kind of like affecting, our surroundings or what we're seeing in society and things like that. And we think that rock and roll is pretty cool. That you kind of like promoting big anthems and things like that. But generally it's like me and Mike would do things more acoustically, and I'd bring in I think there's 2 songs that we have coming out next year, which was just some stuff that I'd written at home, and then Mike, we just produce it together. And I'm constantly writing. I'm here with my buddy Bryce, and we were just chatting the other night with another friend of mine, and Bryce goes, "You're kind of annoying, because when we do fly dates," he goes, "you're always like writing in your book or something like that, or working on stuff." So I'm constantly kind of like putting down ideas. I think that's my form of journaling. is like writing poems or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then when I hear something that Mike's writing, I can then refer to my books and go, oh man, that kind of the energy reminds me of maybe of something of that, and I'll just go through my lyrics and then see what can actually maybe translate the music, you know, vocally. So yeah, but there's no real. I don't think there's no real like a set format. It's just whatever's happening. You know, like Billy, we had a writing session in Toronto the other day. We did the recording, and then we met at Mike's, and we're all kind of hungover. Which was I love getting Billy on the red wines. He has the best stories. But the next day we were writing, and Billy just plugged in, and he was just doing these jam things, and we just had to like stop. And then when I was listening to that, then we can work on stuff, which was cool to work from Billy's bass playing. Actually, it was kind of a pretty cool approach because we hadn't done that for a while. But yeah, there's no strut form. It's got a set form. What's a strut form? I don't know what that means.
There you go, making up those words again.
Exactly.
The redictionary. I'm loving it.
Dictionary.
Yeah.
You've worked with some amazing performers. Of everybody you've opened for or shared a stage with, who had the best stories?
Well, okay, so in I think it was 2010, I think it might have been. We've been touring with Slash and Friends, and that was like the early conspirators, you know, Miles Kennedy and Todd Kearns and Brett Fintz on drums, and I still see those guys in Vegas all the time because they do the rock vault out here, and we always bump into each other, and sometimes I'll turn up to our shows, and Matt Sorum will be in town and stuff like that, and which is cool. I got to meet like some awesome people in my younger years in the bands, and Slash brought us over to Norway for the Court Festival, and it was Slash and Friends, so it was Slash with Ozzy. Yeah, because maybe did that awesome record with Fergie, and then, you know, it was Frankie Perez was singing for him. He was like the resident, and we had Ronnie Wood, we had Jason Bonham on drums, and Teddy and John Five, and then Teddy on keys from Guns N' Roses, and so that was the band over there. And we went to the pre-dinner up in this beautiful mountain, and our manager. There was Ronnie Wood sitting over there. He was 67 at the time, and his girlfriend was 19. And we're just going, what a fucking legend. Wow. You know, like, and my manager goes, just go and say something. And so I just kind of put on my big boy pants and I walked over and I said, listen, I'm Ronnie, so sorry to interrupt. I go, is there one piece of advice that you could give a young band like us, you know? And he looked at his girl and looked at me and he goes, don't fucking break up. And that's all he said. And I said, thank you for your time. And it was so simple, but it was unfortunately the band broke up. But it was so simple, but then the next day we were sitting in the tent and we're just hanging out and because we were on the front news of the paper, we were the first band to arrive, and it said Slash picked, and we were like, so we became like a real cool vibe. And so Fergie comes in and she goes, oh, you're the cute boys from the newspaper, are you? And we had like the food platter, the fruit and everything. And my bass player is just so funny. He goes, hey, Fergie, can we do How to Make Love to a Strawberry game? And she's like, what's that? And then, so it's like how to eat the strawberry the sexiest.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, mate, it was so awesome. It was so much fun. And then literally half an hour later, Slash had come in because he's sober. And they couldn't find Ronnie, and he'd gone missing. And Sharon Osbourne had popped her head in and said, "Have you guys seen Ronnie?" And we're like, "What the hell's going on?" And he went missing, and he'd been drinking, and then we heard that he was found, so we all rushed to the stage to see what was going to happen because he was late for his turn to get on stage. And as soon as the roadie put the guitar on him, it was like magic happened. He just turned into, you know, the same guy that just is arguably the best rhythm, you know, solid rhythm guitar player going around, one of the best. And it was just awesome. He just, and you could see the relief in Slash because he was about to lose his shit. And it was amazing, you know, watching all those heroes together on one stage, you know, Ozzy singing, I think they did Crazy Train or something like that. And it was just like, we're just sitting there going, what are we doing? This is incredible. Yeah. So that was one cool story.
Very cool.
Awesome.
I know.
One of the best tours I saw, that was with Ozzy. I saw him at the Universal Amphitheater. Ozzy, headlining / opening with Miles Kennedy doing the vocals that night.
I know. Yeah, Miles is great. So when we went, we took that Slash and Friends to Australia, which was kind of cool. It was like a homecoming for us, and we're doing like proper big shows. And that's kind of when I kind of looked at myself vocally as well. Like I hadn't been the greatest. My voice was damaged even on the rock and roll show. It'd been so overworked in Australia from using pretty bad equipment. And on the show, sometimes we were taping at like 4 a.m, and there was a lot of like late nights, and Tommy Lee was part of the show, so there was a lot of encouraging Jägermeister and all that kind of stuff. But as he does, and when we went on tour with Miles, I was wondering how perfectly technical he was, and his warm-ups were incredible. And he let me sit and listen to him one day, and it was just he pretty much sing like 45 to an hour, pretty high energy warm-ups, and then go and do the 90-minute plus show at the same kind of rate. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I kind of did a lot more, work on myself, and now, I've changed into a completely different, singer in that kind of the past kind of 10 years or so. So just looking up to people like Miles, and he's super straight as well. And I go, what's some of your secrets? And he goes, I just don't really socialise when I'm on the road, man. I just have to keep my mouth shut. And I go, gets a bit boring. And he goes, yeah, but I'd rather be singing my ass off. And I'm like, yeah, good point. So,
That's
you got to
so
pick and
true.
choose your battles. You got to pick and choose your battles,
That's so true. As a singer, it's the talking that
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
really kills your voice.
I know. And like I said, I do like connecting with people. So
Same.
I have to like remind myself that we've got work to do as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Totally true. Interesting.
Advice we recently heard from our guest, Rick Hughes. Yep.
Yep.
Was what? Sorry.
Rick Hughes brought up the same things. Just like, just everyone goes out to party. Everyone, nope, just head back to the hotel room. Just chill out.
Yeah, totally. I know. It's definitely, particularly when you're younger as well, it's definitely hard to, there goes my buddy Bryce. It's particularly harder to say no when you're younger, because you're just like, you're getting that FOMO, what am I going to miss out on? And, but priorities are priorities, like we have shows out here in Vegas, and in Vegas, like, the shows can be, I think our record was 4 hours and 37 minutes straight, which was ridiculous. And so you kind of have to be able to prepare for that, because, we play for like these kind of rich people who like to just kind of, hey, play longer, and we're like, okay, show me the money, and then they do, and you're like, oh shit, why did I ask? But
Kathy, you understand that?
Yeah, but Vegas has become, I think, it's become the entertainment capital even more now since COVID. I think because I was living in Los Angeles for 15, 16 years, and a lot of the musos came out here because opportunity is a little bit more open here, So a lot of the venues that we play at, see some of my favourite rock singers that used to grow up in West Hollywood. They're all jamming out here, and then they go off and do their tours from here, because they keep their skills up in Vegas, and then they go and hit the road after that. So yeah.
Yeah, and now Eddie has a place out there as well. Eddie Trunk.
Yeah, he does. Yep.
Yeah, and you were just on a show, right?
Yeah, I was just chatted with Eddie. See you later, Bryce. That's Bryce. He's
we're almost done with him. We swear, we're almost done.
Lifehouse. That's Bryce there. So yeah, he's like, you know what he did.
Bryce just got his little moment.
Okay, mate. I'll see you later, mate. All right. I hope he doesn't want to get paid for that.
Wait.
No, so that's cool. Yeah, I did a show with Eddie. So I think, Billy was on Eddie Trunk the other day. And true to Billy's nature, he forgot some of the notes, which was awesome. But it was a fun interview, and he also had like some reverb on the phone or something. It was awesome. But Eddie was like fanning over the record, and so that was enough for us, to kind of like, because I really respect his what he does in the industry and what he does for rock and roll. So that was cool, really really cool.
Yeah, he knows his stuff.
Yeah. I was like, sometimes I know I've been sitting on something great, and my peers, and they go, dude, I think it's some of the best stuff that you've been a part of. It's just good to get people kind of even people like in the industry who have been around for so long and know this shit just to support it. So yeah, we're pretty stoked.
So is this project is this your number one priority right now? Your number one focus?
Yeah, I think it's like we've just given ourselves like the space to be able to push this as far as we go. Like we're all aware that we have other things that kind of, that's the nature of music now, is that we kind of need more streams, unless you're like, touring, pretty big venues. It's very expensive to tour as well these days, particularly for international bands. But so we've allowed ourselves to give ourselves space to really push this to the place where, I mean, we're giving it our all. Like, I'm investing my own money into this stuff. I really believe in it. And the other things that I do, like the band with Gary, that's one of those things. It's a passion project as well. The band that I have out here, it's just, basically corporate stuff. So that allows me to pay my mortgage, so yeah. These are the things that we've got to do. But this is the one that I think that if it's done right, and I think we're off to a good start, it could be something that we could be very, very proud of, and I also want to capitalize on the fact that, that Billy is at a stage in his life where he needs to put his teeth into something that he's really passionate about, because, he's getting to an age where, it's got to be worth it for him, Yeah. So he's excited. I'm excited. And Mike is super hard worker. So we're all great. Our new drummer, Nick, is, one thing about Nick is I only just recently met him as well. And Billy, Billy was saying, are we going to need a drummer? And I said, well, just until we jam with Nick, let's just work out what we're going to do. But they, after we had the first kind of like rehearsal and recording and stuff like live, Billy was like, man, your pocket is ridiculous. This is amazing. And so that was really cool that the four of us really gelled and was tight. And we're going to put the live thing out pretty soon. I think we put one song up already, the latest single, Trippin'. But it was really fun to be in there and just watch it all come together, because we obviously hadn't been in the room much. But I'm now living a little bit in New York, so I can easily go over to Toronto and spend time with Mike and do some sessions as well. So yeah, it's good.
Well, I'm glad you brought Nick up, because my favorite song, every song on the KILLSWITCH EP is fantastic, but I'm loving Face Out. I love that drum intro to that one, and that drum roll. I'm loving that song. What's it like working with? And tell us a little bit more about working with Nick and what he's.
Yeah, Nick is great. He's been a session guy out there in Toronto for ages, and sat in with stuff. I think he did stuff with Slash back in the day, session work and stuff like that. But he doesn't really go on the road too much. I think he's just happy to be with the family and just be that guy in town that can get stuff done professionally. And really cool guy. We call him the coffee guy. Doesn't matter what time it is. He goes, hey, can I get 1,000 cups of coffee for everyone? And we're just over caffeinated all day. But he's like super awesome drummer and like lovely guy. And him and Mike have been playing together since they were 14. So this is like, they're like best mates from years ago. So, and another good thing about having two Canadians in the band is that we're able to get like, the Canadian government are really good at looking after musicians. So we're able to kind of, if we want to do something like a tour, we can ask for funding towards that and things like that. So, we have Billy, the American, we have me, the Australian, and then we have two Canadians. So, but Nick is great. Billy's pretty adamant and keeping it pretty 4-piecey as well, like just 4-piece rock. Obviously there are on the recordings probably, I think Mike will probably do three guitars, obviously with doubles and things like that, but 3 different kind of guitar parts. There are some strings in times and some piano from time to time. So the way that we're going to, once we start rehearsing for it live, will be an interesting conversation whether we bring in like a utility guy or something to kind of play those parts, so we'll see. But as far as everyone being at the top of their game, yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Canuck, 2 Canucks, a Yank, and an Aussie.
Yeah,
the bastard sons of the British Empire. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. What could go wrong, Well, what we'll do is that I'll cause all this shit and then the two Canadians will apologise for it.
Yeah.
That's it. So, we got
Do
it.
a cover of God Save the Queen.
Yeah, there we go, mate. There we go. I love it.
Well, one final thing I want to get to, since bring up the with Mike and everything. You look back and the sheen on the production, the pop sensibility of it. So many Canadian producers, whether it's Bruce Fairbairn or of course Bob Rock or Mutt Lange. And now, what is it about Canadians that have such a great sense of pop rock production?
That's an interesting. I've never actually thought about that, but when you mention those names, you're right, aren't you? It's like, is it maybe because they don't get caught up in a lot of people just being? I mean, they have more space to kind of be who they are. Maybe, I don't know. Like in America, there's just a lot of people trying to do a lot of shit, and maybe you get influenced by just being around so many people. Like who's actually really you in the mess of the industry when you're constantly. Because with Mike, I know that we like to get influences, but I also trust him, with his own work ethic and things like that. So that's an interesting question. I'm just riffing out loud, but I'm thinking about that. But maybe it is because they just probably have a little bit more time. There's not such a overstacked environment for them to kind of not to keep themselves lost in the machine or something. I'm not sure. That's just a thought, maybe. I don't know. But it's interesting you mentioned those names. I'm like, oh yeah, it makes sense. And I'm a big fan of the band Big Wreck. I don't know if you remember those guys, but they have. If you haven't heard much about them, it's Ian Thornley. The singer sounds like Cornell. It's insane, and their production is insane too. So, big Canadian band. So yeah, Canadian rock and roll is pretty strong.
Well, you brought up Our Lady Peace earlier, and they to me were one of the best sounds coming out of the '90s, and that post grunge stuff.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
Well, you guys have done a great job. I'm really excited for you. The sound is killer. You guys really do have a modern take on rock with this.
Oh, good. Thank you so much. Yeah, I like that. It's we're because we're a little bit older than some of the younger rock bands, but I feel like with rock and roll, it's becoming a little ageless at the moment, because I think some of the best records are coming out are just from true tested rock and roll artists, and it's also good to see my peers who are back touring their asses off. Just seeing all these bands with more opportunities. I know that some venues have closed down, but I have seen a lot of bands touring again, and a lot of people turning up to shows, and so we hope that we can be part of that next year as well.
Well, we brought him up on the show recently. Bruce Dickinson still running around like a madman.
Yeah.
And God rest Mr. Petty's soul. But you don't slow down, you never grow old. I live by that mantra from Tom. Yeah,
definitely. And then if you have you had Billy on the show yet, or have
No.
you spoken to Billy before? That guy's an energizer bunny as well. Like he's and he basically says that when you listen to his interviews and stuff, like he goes like, I live to be on stage, and I play to be on stage. So we don't see ourselves shying away from like putting in that work to be out there. So we're gonna run Billy into the ground, and then I'll go down with him. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. Like I'm actually really, when I think about playing it live and with all the new production tricks that we have, that we can make sound incredible, and lighting and things like that. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of show we can put together, make a really experience as well, and connect with all the rock lovers out there.
Well, you're in Vegas. I mean, that's not too far of a road trip for Jim to come down and Marty to come out, and Kathy. We're not too far from Vegas here in Phoenix.
When you're in Phoenix.
Yeah, so
exactly.
or just come down to Phoenix, exactly. So save us the trip. But I do want to encourage everybody out there in all over the place that check out the Fell. Check them on Facebook and Instagram, and that's at the Fell Music. YouTube, just simply at the Fell, and also at www.thefellmusic.com. And don't forget, that's where you can get your limited edition KILLSWITCH EP, whether it's CD or See, I'm you'd think I'd be reading along with that, but no, I'm riffing right now. But
you guys have done a really, really good job, like promoting all that. Thank you, guys. That's awesome.
Love it, like Kathy's mentioned, and then we brought it. Loving the sound, Toby. It's
awesome.
Great rock and roll. It's
good stuff.
It ain't noise pollution, and it ain't going away, folks. And I'm glad you guys are carrying the torch for it. And just make sure you check them out, folks, on all of the whether it's Spotify, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and always thanks for listening and or watching. And don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment over on YouTube at All Over the Place. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us. Toby, welcome back anytime. Would love to have you back right before you go on tour.
I appreciate you guys. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Eric, and thanks, Kathy. Appreciate you guys, man. Awesome.
All right, take care, everyone. We'll be back real soon on All Over the Place.
Bye.
All Over the Place, where the fun sanity never ends.